looking at performativity and performances, an analysis of the portrait of gender identity of women in plays in English written in Sri Lanka by Sri Lankan playwrights. So now this research brings together a fascinating combination of my interests, which include drama, theatre, and gender in Sri Lankan and literature. The focus will be mainly on three plays, that is Siva Mohan Sumati's Shadow of the Gun, Senaka Aberatna's Tristake, and Ruwan Trichikera, Middle of Silence. Now, based on this study done on Arabic and African theatre, it said that performativity and performance are both social and artistic concepts that function in dance, theatre, and drama. So naturally now I'll go to some of the key phrases, key aspects, key terms that I have used in my topic. No, not Judith Butler, you may have heard of her, a little bit of theory because we need that for this research, okay? Post-structuralist philosopher, has contributed to a number of theories including feminism, queer theory. She talks about performativity and identity. And her theories are influenced by Lacanian psychoanalysis and speech act theory. I'm sorry about all the jargon, but I needed to get this going, right? So Butler, that's Judith Butler, explains that within speech act theory, a performative is that discursive practice that enacts or produces that which it names. So basically, in the performativity of our identities is that the way social reality is not given but continually created as illusion through language, gesture and all manner of symbolic sign. Right? Now Butler takes this formulation further by looking at the way linguist constructions create our reality in general through the speech acts we participate in every day. So when we cite conventions and ideologies of the social world around us, we are enacting that reality. Right? And in the performative act of speaking, we incorporate that reality by enacting it with our bodies. But interestingly, that reality is still a social construction. A social construction that we may see as subjectivity or even an identity. Right? So therefore, gender is an act, right? Broadly construed, which constructs a social fiction of its own psychological interiority. Now that I'm quoting from Butler, right? So now, again, referring to that research article I spoke of earlier, on performing gender in Arabic and African theatre in 2009, they talk about this identity construction and that performativity. That identity is created not only by facts of nature, not only by social context, not only by psychological truth, but again repeatedly by our actions, right? And it is these actions that are searched for and reflected in drama and theatre. So the connection between performance and performativity enables us to understand the function of theatre of the present and the future, particularly in Sri Lanka. I hope you are with me, right? So we can speculate that on one hand, theatre can be a medium through which you can cross boundaries, question notions, right? And limitations and traditional roles, but at the same time, Nelufa Dimel, in Women and the Nation's Narrative, right? Gender and Nationalism in 20th Century Sri Lanka, while talking about the history of Sri Lankan theatre, says that the capacity of the theatre to work as a powerful vehicle for disseminating ideology and socio-political comment. And also reiterates that the position of women on and off stage was gendered to suit the patriarchal needs of the nation. Right? So the significance of this research is that it looks at identity construction both on and off stage, right? In performativity and performance. And it views and questions the crucial role that English theatre in Sri Lanka plays in defining this construction of gender identity. Do these play cross boundaries, question notions of identity, or do they merely emphasize the pre-existing ideologies and conventions, right? So now looking at Sumati is the shadow of the gun. It's a one-woman performance, and I quote from the foreword itself, designed to recover some of the voices of the women figures from the water on north of Sri Lanka. Now, Dimel states that the need of the hour is for her as in the woman, to be fixed or telescope the past as a bearer of tradition and a proud history. And likewise, when you look at this all-encompassing larger-than-life figure of the mother in Shadow of the Gun, and I quote, I am the mother of the nation. It is only the woman who preserves and nurtures these values. And then the sex worker states, they shot me through the belly, the womb that gave birth to the sons of this soil. I carry the seeds of this nation here, the murderer who was born of this Gaelic womb. So here the self-sacrificing, I said, larger life figure of the mother is highlighted, right? Likewise, in Three Star Case, in Kavya which is also set against the backdrop of the ethnic conflict, the mother figure is played by the character of the mother, right? Where she is victim to the unbridled violent nature of her son. Mother says, I've given you everything, everything I own, even my sanctity. Know that I didn't give you, you took it by force, by brute force. You sucked it out of me. Now interestingly, there's a history behind all of this, right? And now just to make it something interesting that Butler says, there is a history that exists beyond the subject who enacts these conventions. The act that one does, the act that one performs, is in a sense an act that has been going on before one arrived on the scene. Hence, gender is an act which has been rehearsed, much as the script survives for particular actors who make use of it, but which requires individual actors in order to be actualized and reproduced as reality once again. So I see this script is partly talking about as the different notions that are associated with gender, identity, related with chastity, marriage, gender roles, or any aspect that is passed down the generations. And in this context, is passed down with actors, the women themselves, to the younger generation, right? So for instance, when it comes to notions on chastity, the existing ideas that women should be responsible for protect it, etc., etc. So women themselves tend to condone or justify, for instance, sexual abuse. And I quote from Shadow of the Gun, that they are also men with feelings, soldiers or no soldiers. And I quote again, our girls are a lot to blame. Do they have to dress like that? If only one lived in fear and modesty. Again, where there are women stepping about shamelessly in the streets, such things are bound to happen. We as women should be careful and cherish our inner strength. So these repeated terms of modesty, inner strength, beauty, protection, ideas and beliefs that are passed down by women, who with this view perhaps want to see this is one of the more few cherishable sort of aspects in a traditional world, right? Like obviously in a conflict zone. So but for me, when you look closely at the plays, I see that there are subtle changes in the perceptions held with regard to these traditional beliefs. In the play, there is a role of a young woman, in her late teens. And then of course there's another middle class woman, these are characters in the play. She says, my mother could only talk of Kanaki and Arundhati, and she says, exposing my womanhood to the world, I let them plunder my innermost secret. I am alone in this, everyone else is untouched and I have been raped. Yes, rape is the word. So there's a sort of confrontation, rebelliousness towards things that are often taken for granted, right? And this is spotted on a stage, in a refusal to be a merely fixed, traditional, bearer of tradition, etc., as quoted from DeMelle's article previously. I think in a way it does make sense in the changing times, the post-war context, all of that. And quoting from again that research paper on Arabic and African theatre, identity is no longer a fixed phenomenon, but it's seen now as a pluralistic concept, fluid and continually shifting in a changing cultural landscape. Right? And just to draw your attention to Three Star Case, in the Three Star Case, despite the fact that both of them were sexually harassed by Nepan, right? His mother continues to love her son while Pumi, that is his wife, reviles him and quite rightly states, your mother loves you even though you are a pig. And then she says, and after his death, the conversation that follows, mother, do you miss my son? Pumi states, I'm glad he's gone, I'm glad he's out of my life. Now in middle of silence, the conversation between Nireka, that is a sex worker, and Nanda is married to Ajit, who used to be a relatively wealthy middle-class man, but now they live in poverty-stricken conditions. Nireka says, I'm looking at me in you so many years ago. I have forgotten, almost. Look at me. Do you see yourself? Here she sees a younger version of herself in Nanda. And it is as though generations of women are speaking out, speaking of the luxury of choice that was never theirs. And Nireka says, I never chose. I don't even understand that word anymore. I am here today because I was once a girl like you, never had a choice. And Nanda's final decision to turn to prostitution is also a result of a lack of choice. Because at the end, I quote, she turns the mirror right way up, looks at Ajit and looks at herself for a long while at the mirror. Now this point is climatic in the play because like a reflection that Nireka sees in her, she now sees herself as someone who has changed her circumstances and abject poverty. because she no longer grovels at Ajit's feet as she used to initially, but continues to care for him, and her attitude shows a great strength of character. Jessica Kawa, talking about refugee settlement in Uganda where she organized a workshop, says in everyday life relationships between males and females are gendered, creating distinguishing body language and physical movements. Now these reflect obviously the power structures between men and women, and most often in the case of the plays that I'm talking about, women being downtrodden, as seen in the way Nanda grovels at Ajit's feet and is beaten by him constantly, and the manner in which Pyumi and her mother-in-law are sexually assaulted by Mevan. However, also at the same time, there's a definite sense of change and what I would call progression, in fact, in the manner in which eventually Pyumi, through staging her death, plays a key role in the murder of Mevan, and also that in the end, Nanda silently turns her back on Ajit while he helplessly calls out to her from his crippled, broken state. Here there is also a crossing of the usual demarcation of what we might define as the private and the public, according to Cork again from the American African theatre. Theatre is a public institution, a theatre performance is a public event. So women were also banned from the stage as a public forum, as is evident as Dimel talks about the Sri Lankan context and states, and I quote, the social stigma attached to women of honor being seen in public forbade the respectable South Asian woman from taking part in plays. Right? So this is reflective of how women are limited to private space of the home and to domestic identities and other traditional representations. Now interestingly, in the plays in discussion in this research, there is again the progression in the multiple roles played by women both within and outside the confines of the home. As in The Shadow of the Gun, the narrator calls out, can you hear her driving it being the bulldozer, across the fields making her life? Can you hear her scrape the bottom of the pot for the last grain of rice? And I also quote from Middle of the Silence, Nanda, while treating a crippled Ajit in her desperate circumstances, also becomes the breadwinner of the family. So in conclusion, but not really in conclusion, because I said it's an ongoing research and all of that, but to conclude this, what I'm saying now, it is clear that Sri Lankan playwrights have attempted to portray gender identity in a state of progression suitable to the changing nature of our context and situation. It is clear that while there may be already existing conventions of society which are emphasized, there is also an attempt to question these certain norms and preconceived notions, right, with regard to gender identity of women in Sri Lanka. So looking at performativity and performances, I have begun to comprehend and grasp that the construction of gender identity of women on stage is also a reflection of the potential future of the women in Sri Lanka, right? So, and as I quoted at the opening of this presentation, all the world is a stage, not just a stage in terms of theatre, but also in terms of the changing stages or phases or contexts in which all the men and women will play increasingly different roles and parts as suited to the significant changes that take place.